His mother looked at me and said, "You're too weak for my son."
Stop playing with puppies. Get a real lioness. Those were the words that shattered something inside me and woke something stronger. I still remember the exact moment. I was standing in the doorway of Daniel's childhood home, holding a tray of tea I had made for his mother. My hands were trembling, but I forced a polite smile. I had been trying for months to win her over, to prove I was enough for her son. But the way she looked at me, it was like I was invisible. She didn't even bother lowering her voice. "Daniel, you're wasting your time. She's soft. Sweet maybe. But life isn't kind to puppies. You need a lioness." I froze. The tray felt heavier than it should. Daniel laughed awkwardly, brushing it off like it was nothing. "Mom, please. Don't start." But she didn't stop. She looked straight at me this time. "Tell me, what do you offer him when life gets hard?" Tears. I placed the tray down carefully, forcing my hands not to shake. "I offer loyalty," I said quietly. "And love." She smiled, but it wasn't kind. Love doesn't build empires. That night, I cried harder than I ever had before. Not just because of what she said, but because Daniel didn't defend me. He held me while I cried, whispered that his mom was just like that, and promised things would get better. But deep down, something had shifted. I realized I was begging to be chosen in a place where I was only being tolerated. Weeks passed, and the tension only grew. Daniel started working longer hours. His texts became shorter, colder. And one evening, he finally said the words I had been dreading. Maybe my mom's right. We're just too different." It felt like the ground disappeared beneath me. "So that's it?" I asked, my voice breaking. "After everything?" He looked away. "I need someone stronger. Someone who fits into my world." I nodded slowly, even though my chest felt like it was collapsing. "Then go find your lioness," I said. "But don't expect me to stay here waiting." Walking away from him was the hardest thing I've ever done. But it was also the first time I chose myself. The months that followed weren't easy. I rebuilt my life from scratch. I focused on my career, pushed myself harder than ever before, and slowly started discovering a version of me I had never met. A version that didn't seek approval. A version that didn't shrink to make others comfortable. I stopped being the puppy they saw me as. Not by becoming cold or ruthless, but by learning my worth. A year later, everything changed. I was invited to speak at a major business conference. My company had grown rapidly, and people were starting to notice. As I stood backstage, adjusting my blazer, I heard a familiar voice. "I can't believe it's really you." I turned, and there was Daniel. He looked the same, but different. Tired. Less confident. His eyes scanned me like he was seeing me for the first time. "You've changed," he said softly. I smiled. "No. Eve grown." Before he could respond, another voice joined us. "Well, this is unexpected." I turned again, and there she was. His mother. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she stepped closer, her eyes sharp, assessing. But this time, I didn't feel small. "You've done well for yourself," she said. "Thank you," I replied calmly. She tilted her head. "Looks like you became the lioness after all." I held her gaze unshaken. "No," I said. "I stopped trying to prove I was worthy of your definition." Silence filled the space between us. Daniel cleared his throat. I made a mistake," he said quietly. "I didn't see your strength back then." I looked at him, not with anger, not with longing, but with clarity. "You saw exactly what you were ready to see," I said. "And so did I." There was nothing left to say. When my name was called, I walked onto that stage with steady steps. The lights were bright, the audience silent, waiting. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of being judged. I spoke about resilience, about self-worth, about how the world will try to label you, too soft, too emotional, not enough, and how dangerous it is to believe those labels. Because strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's the quiet decision to walk away. Sometimes it's choosing yourself when no one else does. And sometimes, the puppy they underestimated becomes something they could never control. The truth is, I was never weak. I was just surrounded by people who didn't understand my strength. And the moment I stopped trying to fit into their world, I built one of my own.